All right, so let's talk about personal social behavior. Just continuing our um, lecture on the preschooler. The preschooler is very much into wanting to please. They are toileting on themselves. They want to eat by themselves, dress themselves. They have opinions. They are very much internalizing those values that the parents and their culture put on them, and they actually may begin to display some sort of challenge towards these values that the parents initiate. Okay, play is very, very important. So, associative play is similar to parallel play in that children that are doing parallel play in that toddler period of time are playing next to each other. So they're playing individual games or playing with toys individually, but they are not working. They're playing parallel to each other. Associative play, they're also um, playing next to each other, but they are playing the same game, but they're not really working together or connecting with one another. Now, imitative play, that's where they're imitating certain things that they might see. Again, why it's important to protect their innocence. Imaginative play is where they begin to let their imagination sort of take off. And this sort of plays into that dramatic play where they are putting out all these scenes, these heroic fairy tale scenes of rescues and dramatic princess play. And, they might be pirates or superheroes, whatever it might be. So this baby or this little girl is pretending to be a doctor and she's fixing her animal. Um, so um, Coping with concerns related to normal growth and development, the preschool kindergartner is, like we said, they're getting ready to go to school. So they have lots of things that are used to get them ready for that. That developmental screening to assess for readiness for school is used. A lot of schools will do this early on, either before they begin school or shortly after they enter into school. So, of course, infection control is very, very important as the the preschooler because they are the germ reservoirs. These are the kids, this age, preschool and school age. These are the kids that spread disease. Okay, the literature is very, very clear in the fact that if you immunize preschool and school age children, even if you did not immunize anybody else in the population and you only immunized the preschool and the school age population, you would minimize disease spread. And that's simply because they are the vectors. They are the ones that are carrying this everywhere, that have poor infection control. So, they're not going to wash their hands if an adult is not instructing them to do so, and so on and so forth. So infection control is a big deal in this population. Sex education, again, they're going to be asking questions. So the preschooler is going to be asking a little bit more detailed questions than the toddler. Of course, we know that. And again, avoid over answering the question. So you're really just trying to answer the question exactly as they ask it. Sexual exploration, sexual curiosities is very common in this age group, and you don't really want to condone it, and you don't really want to sort of shame them either. The best thing is to redirect and say, that's not something that we do, and certainly not in the public arena. But redirection is usually the best way to deal with that. Okay, the preschooler is afraid of the dark. They're afraid of being left alone. They're afraid of certain animals. They're afraid of ghosts. And for this reason, again, I keep coming back to the fact that we have to protect their minds and their brains and make sure that they're not seeing things that they can't self-imagine. So in other words, you know, would a child, an innocent child who's never seen a scary movie or things like that, imagine for a ghost is very, very different than a child who has seen maybe a horror film because someone was watching it and they were sitting in the room with it. That changes their brain chemistry forever, forever. And you can't go back. So it's very important that kids are allowed to grow up and allowed to be little. Okay, stress. They really do well with this. They adapt to school. They adapt to routines. They adapt to stress very, very well. And they do need their adequate rest. They need to be able to recharge at night. Their brains need to be able to regroup. They grow when they sleep. And for this reason, it's very important that they get adequate rest. You do see aggression come out in this age group, and this is even more evident in the child who's unable to communicate. You'll see that. And then you see aggression be more, I guess, worse in a way in those children that have witnessed aggression in their lives. Yeah, so that modeling and things like that. So, but this is the age where you do start to see that aggression. Stuttering, stammering, dyslalia, all of these can be relatively normal in this age group. Dyslalia is that articulation problem where, for instance, you can say something like effluent instead of elephant, and you understand what they're trying to say, but they haven't mastered the articulation of that word yet. And most of the time, and most kids do end up mastering that with time. Nutrition, again, their caloric intake is 90 kilocalories per kilogram, which, is really not a whole lot. Again, the preschooler is going to eat complete junk food if you allow them to eat complete junk food. The preschooler is going to graze and eat snacks all day long if you allow them to do that. And so I return to my soapbox that, it's very important to provide structure with meals. And when a meal is completed, if they haven't eaten all of their dinner, then there's no snacks after that. And this cuts down on that sort of short order cooking for them and them to sort of gravitate towards the poor nutritious foods. They need 12 hours of sleep. The preschooler, especially the child that's getting closer to the school age, is going to not nap very often. Free play is encouraged. They need to be able to play unstructured. So the ability to imagine, the ability to do dramatic play, the ability to pretend is incredibly important for brain development and just social development and things like that. So nightmares and sleep terrors. It's important to differentiate between the two. Nightmares occur when a child wakes up, has had a bad dream, they're completely coherent, and they remember the dream. So a child wakes up, they scream, "Mommy, I had a bad dream, snakes were chasing me," or whatever it was. A sleep terror is when a child cries uncontrollably. So we're talking screaming uncontrollably. When the parent tries to talk to them, they aren't awake. They actually don't respond. Sometimes they might respond, but they're definitely not awake. And then when that child comes out of that sleep terror, they have no recollection of it. Okay, so nightmares children remember, sleep terrors they don't remember, and it's important to differentiate between the two of those. To help with sleep problems, I am a huge encourager and proponent of consistent bedtime routine, putting them to bed before they are overly tired, because then the brain is just overly exhausted when it goes into its deep sleep. And just keeping that bedtime routine, whether you're on the weekend or you're during the week, making sure that child gets to sleep at a decent time. Okay, so baby teeth is complete. That's the deciduous teeth. It's now recommended that, I usually say about the age of 3 that a child should go to the dentist and begin to have routine dental care. And this is important because they can scrape off the tartar and things like that. Fluoride supplements, again, in moderation because they can be neurotoxic, but when a child is able to swish and spit, it is recommended that fluoride be utilized in the toothpaste. And of course, injury prevention, bike helmets, car seat safety. Again, children should really be in a 5-point harness till they're almost 5, maybe even 6, depending on how tall they are. So bike helmets as they're riding their bikes and things like that, making sure that, they're not getting hurt unnecessarily. And then that anticipatory guidance. So, childcare focus shifts from protection more so to education and helping them learn and educate them on different things within our world.